Hey guys, now I'm going to talk about my experience working at Bob Barker's final episode taping of The Price is Right in 2007. I might have touched upon it before in a post on here or somewhere online here and there, but now I'm going to try to go into a detailed synopsis. Bob Barker retired, taped his final episode of The Price is Right on June 6th, 2007. At the Bob Barker studio at CBS in Hollywood on Beverly and Fairfax, which was recently sold a couple of years back. So they moved Price is Right to Glendale at Haven Studios, where it tapes now. I was a CBS page in 2007. I had seen The Price is Right 6 times throughout 2006 in the new year while I was attending UCLA for screenwriting at the professional screenwriting program. And I said to myself, that fall, I'm going to apply to CBS. I would love to work at The Price is Right, especially since Bob Barker was retiring. He had announced his retirement in that October. So that November I applied. Well, I reapplied because I had applied before. And I reapplied again. And I called Human Resources and I got the position. I got the job. So now let's talk about working the last episode of The Price is Right with Bob Barker. I was usually scheduled to work Monday shows, which taped 2 different shows per day. The rest of the week, I was never a regular page at the show. I always worked different shows throughout the week. Some pages got to work at Price is Right more. I got to work on it less. But the Monday shows, I always worked both double shows. So I got to work on it actually just as much as everyone else. Just only that one day, not like 2 or 3 days a week out of the 4 they taped. So I asked my boss, I said, I would love to work his Wednesday show, his last show, the last week of tapings. Because that week, I was thinking maybe I'll get the 2 Monday shows and then not work Tuesday, Wednesday. And I'd be like, I would just rather not work the Monday shows and work that Wednesday show instead. So my boss was like, okay, I'll see what I can do. And then the schedules came out and I got to work the show. I was one of the selected to be an inside CBS page at Bob Barker's last taping. And I used to do my thing with the audience. I used to sing with them out in line. I used to get them pepped up. And now let's take things to, a couple of days before the taping, I was working in the CBS ticket booth out in Fairfax Avenue, which is defunct now. It was defunct many years ago, maybe a year after I was a page. They don't use it anymore. I was responding to ticket requests, paper ticket requests, which they don't do anymore. They do them all by online now. Everything was paper or online back then, but now it's all online. I was responding to ticket requests that Friday. That Friday before Bob taped his last show. And then one guy came up in line. He goes, is this where the line is for The Price is Right? I said, yes. He said, I'm here for Bob's last show. I said, wow, you're 5 days early. That was Philip Barrett. I said, wait there in line. You'll be first. I said, a lot of energy. They're looking for people with energy. Don't be a stick in the mud. I would tell people that at the show. I'd say, they want people with energy. Don't just stand there and stick in the mud. You have to be energetic. You have to want to be there. They like that in contestants. But be true to yourself. Be happy to be there. Be a fan of the show. And he took my advice. And he said, I'm going to be that. He was very happy to be there. He was with his wife. And they waited out in line 5 days. So now, here it is. June 6, 2007. And I got to work Bob Barker's last Price is Right. I left early for the taping. Knowing myself, I didn't want to miss it. Say if my car wasn't starting, and I left 9:30 in the morning for my 10 a.m. shift, I would have been late. I would have missed it. I would have had to go to get a, mechanic or whatever. I had to get it towed. I didn't want that to happen, so I left early. I left around 5:30 in the morning. I'm like, I'm going to go to the Grove, get myself a blueberry pomegranate smoothie at the Coffee Bean, and then I'm going to just hang out with the audience all morning. Or inside, and in the page office. So a weird thing that happened was that night before, I ate Dreyer's low-fat birthday cake ice cream, take the cake, and I drank V8 blueberry pomegranate smoothie. So I don't know what happened. My body was not agreeing to it. So that whole day at the Bob's final episode of The Price is Right, all I heard in my body was, but I was still able to have the energy and get that audience to have fun out in line. So I've never mentioned that before. I've always forgotten about it, but I just remembered it now. So I got there early, and all the pages, the early pages who were doing the outside, getting the name tags done and everything, like, what are you doing here so early? I'm like, hey, I don't want to be late. This is Bob's last episode. So I was out in line. I was doing my thing with them out in line. I was singing to them. I was getting them pepped up. And then throughout the day, Roger Dobkowitz, the producer at the time, he had been there since the beginning. He was like Bob's right-hand man. He came up to me and goes, Mark, I want to commend you. Every time you're here, whether you're working the show or not, you always get that audience to cheer for Bob, and I love that about you. And that's something I will always remember, working Bob's last episode of The Price is Right. I got to meet Roger behind the scenes a couple of months earlier when they were doing rehearsals with Mario Lopez and George Hamilton and Todd Newton and Mike Richards. And I got to be a practice contestant behind the scenes with them while they learned the games for their test shows. So, and Roger was like, this is great, just keep it up. And I said to myself, oh my gosh, I would love to ask Roger at some point if they needed production assistance. But in a way, I'm glad I didn't, because the show changed so much after Bob left, and the production assistants he hired were dismissed when he was dismissed a year later. So in a way, I'm glad I wasn't the production assistant there. I would have felt just as heartbroken if that had happened. So I was at the show, and I was getting them all pepped up in line, and then there was a news team as they were going inside the studio. Boom, boom, boom. And they were just sitting there, the audience. And I just started chanting, Bob, Bob, Bob. And they were all chanting with me. Then we made our way inside the studio. And it was a party. Everybody was dancing in the front row. I was dancing with everybody. Everybody in the audience. They're just going around dancing. Me and all the other pages. We were all, as everyone was sat down in their seats, we got them all up. And they were clapping, they were cheering. Some people even had cameras in there, which they shouldn't have. And I was asking the head page at the time, I said, could they do that? Oh, it's his last episode, go ahead. So it was a big party in his last episode. And I found footage of myself dancing for about 8 to 10 seconds behind the scenes. It's online here. You can find it. And then Rich Fields came out, and he did his warm-up. And then Bob made his final entrance into the studio. And I'm there chanting, Bob, Bob, Bob. And all the people in the front row, you can see them. As they show the first item up for bids on screen, the big screen TV, they pan on the audience, and you can see all the front people going, Bob, 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 for about 3 seconds. A burst of confetti went everywhere because an audience member had it. And then Philip Arica called down. He was the third contestant called down. And I'm there jumping up and down for like the first like 3 acts as the first like half of the show took place. And then Rich Fields notifies me during a tape stop. Hey, Mark. Yeah? The director says you're being too jumpy. Huh? Stay glued to the stage. You're getting in all the shots. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I mean, it's his last episode. Bob's last episode. Oh, okay, I understand. So I stay glued to the stage. And then what happened was I was sent to the back of the studio. But not because of that. Glenn Walker Harris Jr., who played Sly Ecker on General Hospital and the bike thief on the Leave It to Beaver movie back in the 90s, he was a page with us. And he was positioned in the back of the studio for the first half of the show. Hey, Mark, I want to get a photo with Bob. Can we switch? I'm like, all right. So you could see me in the first half of the show. You could see me when Shayla Sanders gets called down. You could see my profile clapping in the front by Rich Fields' podium. Then Dean Lindstrom got called down on the second half of the show. And that's like the best come on down from the whole taping. He jumped in front of me. I was clapping on the white platform in the back. He jumped in front of me, made a jump onto the ramp going down, and I hung on to the railing. I'm like, oh my God, is he okay? Right away he got up and ran to Contestants Row. So right there I got screen time at Bob's last episode. I could say, wow, there I am right there. Even if you didn't see me when Shayla got called down, there I am right there. And then Melva Cranston got called down, the next contestant. You can see me for a split second as well, paging in the back of the studio, clapping by the green curtain. And then it was the end of the show. And I was sent back to the front when they were doing the showcases. And before we did the showcases, I was handing Bob gifts from the audience. And I walked up to the stage, and he smelled, as usual, like Old Spice. He wore Old Spice. And he go, now what the hell is this? What the heck is this? I'm like, oh, Bob, it's a stuffed animal. Oh, it's a hat someone made you. Oh, great. So that was a lot of fun. The audience had a lot of fun laughing when he go, what the heck is this to me all the time? And then they did the showcase. They did the final showcases. And Denise Lebeque won. Philip lost. Philip made it to the showcase. He actually lost his game, too, his pricing game, and he lost the showcase. But he was there the whole show. He had, like, the most airtime out of all the contestants. Then Bob said his goodbyes, and he left. And then Rich Fields comes up to me. He goes, Mark is going to draw the door prize. I went up on stage. I drew the door prize. Before Bob left, he said, he turned to me, and he goes, if anyone wants any autographs of me, see this young gentleman here. He didn't know me personally, because I never really talked to him a lot. I just talked to him on stage, like, hey, Bob, this is this. Hey, Bob, someone has this for you. That's all. So, and then the taping ended, and Bob left, and I drew the door prize. And then Rich Fields was talking to the audience afterwards, and I got to the stage by his podium, and I ended up in some press shots here and there. And when we were doing all this, the dancing before the taping, showing the Air Day sign and everything, there was press everywhere taking photos, and I can't find anything online of that. I found everything I could, like 3 or 4 photos of me putting my fist in the air during a tape stop when Bob was on stage talking to the audience at the beginning of the show, and then at the end when I'm guarding between the orange and blue podiums as the audience is leaving. Those are the only 2 professional photos I found online that are press photos. Everything else that they took of us pages dancing and everything, I couldn't find. I don't even know where they are. Hopefully they put them online someday. So, and that's pretty much my recollection of working Bob Barker's last episode of The Price is Right on June 6, 2007. And that's a wrap.